9:30, we're going to call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes or additions?
Good morning, Commissioners. There are two minor changes to the agenda. Mr. Steve Sally will not be able to join us this morning due to the weather, so we've canceled his presentation to the board. And then underneath the consent agenda, I've added approval of a phone stipend for Deputy Steve Garrett, changing his from $30 to $50.
Need a motion to approve the agenda with those changes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public, approving the minutes of the January 22nd board meeting and the 29th and 5th work group sessions.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment period. Anybody wish to address the board this morning? Okay. All right, we'll start with the rest of the agenda. Nothing under appointments this morning. So we'll start with the consent agenda.
Yep. Good morning again, Commissioners. We have a number of items for your approval, most of which are routine annual contracts, the first couple of which are two resolutions to execute things that you've already approved with the bridge project and the airport project, but necessary documents to get the state funding flowing appropriately. And then under the personnel actions at the bottom, we regretfully accept Doreen Denstead's retirement after 39 years of service to the county. So we look to fill her position. We have the reassignment of Audrey Stegmeyer to our health educator position. We have another resignation of Lindsay Standell, one of our social services worker, effective the end of February, 26th of February. And again, we'd like to fill and search for her. And then the addition again of that stipend, phone stipend, change from $30 to $50 a month for Steve Garrett.
I just met with John this morning. He went through that with me, so it sounds like it's all.
We need a motion to approve the consent agenda with all those.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Actually, on the resolutions for the airport and the local bridge replacement at committee this morning, Brian explained it with the grant for the bridge being offered, and this is the second part of the airport land acquisition agreement. So.
No, not land acquisition.
Not
Just.
land. Oh, I'm reading the wrong one here.
Yeah. Don't read that.
No, exactly. Okay.
We aren't buying more land for the airport.
We are not. No. Thank you.
It's good to clear that up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Action item. Starting with the first one, consider the low bid for SAP 028-596, which is paving of County State Aid Highways 10, 20, 24, and 249. Do you have anything to add to that?
Brian, would you like to add anything? Please. And you have that package in front of you under the.
Oh, this one
Yeah.
right here.
That's the bid info.
Morning, Commissioners. Yeah, so this is a paving job on 4 different roadways. Just want to point out that This is not like a typical paving job they do during a normal cycle, in that we have some local, or a larger local stake this time. County Road 249 is 100% local money. So our engineer's estimate on the County Road 249 portion was $2,693,427.81, and the actual cost came in at $2,637,935.92. So on the estimate side, County Road 249 came in under what our engineer's estimate was once the plans were complete. On the budgeting side, we budgeted $3.01 million for that project, for the County Road 249, the local portions. So we're under on the budget by a fairly substantial amount. There are some potential for overruns during the project that could change what the ultimate number is in the end. I've been speaking with Administrator Babinski about that underrun on funding and how some other aspects affect our budget. But overall, the bids came in really good as far as we're concerned. Total for the project, our engineer's estimate was $5.077 million. The bid came in at $5.031 million, so it came in at 0.9% under the estimate. So overall, like I said, I think we got good numbers. I recommend approval.
What could be some of the potential overruns?
The biggest on this is the pavement. You know, if you get into some areas where you go to put it down on the pavement, it ends up being, 4.2 inches thick instead of 4 inches thick. You start getting into that little bit of asphalt price. Or if you get into, with some shaping out there, getting some shoulders widened, making that shoulder fit, hauling a little bit of extra rock. Those are pretty much the two main ones for overruns. Our inspector on this job is one that's been out on a lot of roadways. Usually comes in at 99% of the original contract amount. He does a good job of making sure that the numbers start to go up, thin out the pavement, and really keep it where it needs to be. We don't go over. We don't want to thin it up too much, but I anticipate that it's going to come in right at what the bids came in. But we want to at least account for some potential for some overruns. We also have the potential of having some soft spots where you need to go out there and over excavate to fix some soft spots. So.
Teresa?
Yes.
Yes, I'm unable to hear Brian, but what is the local contribution to that project?
The local contribution would be $2,637,935.92. So on the project bid abstract, the project under CP 2019-01, all of those items are local money. The other roadways are county state aid.
Did you hear that, Jack?
No, I didn't.
Okay, the local was $2,637,935.92, and the rest is state, right?
State aid,
State
yep.
aid.
Sounds a little steep.
Brian, why is there that difference? I'm sure you've explained it before, and Jack doesn't remember, neither do I.
Yeah. So there's around the state, there's some roadways that qualify for state aid funds, which is funds that come in through the gas tax, and parts tax or fees. Those roadways do not encompass every roadway in the county system, and this is pretty much every county has some county roadways. Okay, yeah. So those roadways, county state aid highways are the majority of our system. There's some counties where half the roadways are county roads. County roads do not have any gas tax money go toward them. Typically, they're roadways that either had very low volume at one point, maybe the roadway network within the county grew, and as it grew, the state said no more roadways within your network with state funds. Anything that your network's going to grow, it's going to be 100% local money. Or in the case of County Road 249, the road used to be a state highway, was turned back to the county. Usually when a state highway gets turned back to the county, it becomes 100% county cost. So when that road was turned back to Houston County got about $2 million for taking over the roadway. That was, I think it was $2 million, might have been $1 million. That money was spent during a couple of bridge replacements, paving, previous stuff on the roadway. That money's long spent. So now at this point, anything going forward on this roadway is 100% local money, unless we're able to acquire some state bonding money. The only state bonding money becomes available is with bridge replacements. When we replaced a bridge at the bottom of the hill, the intersection of 32, that we had some state bonding money for the bridge. There is no state bonding money available for paving. Overall, we're one of the fortunate counties that we have very few county roadways compared to a lot of counties. So once this is done, hopefully we don't need to touch that roadway for 20 plus years.
Yeah, because that road got turned back to the county in the 80s,
80s, I think, yes.
I'm guessing. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Jack, from Brian, that the state doesn't cover 249?
Yes, I did.
Yep, and I don't know if you heard before, Jack, we budgeted $3.01 million for this 9-mile section of County Road 249. So the $2.637 million did come in about $300,000 under budget, or under our original estimate. So yes, it's a lot of money to be spent. We tried to drag that roadway out and not pave it now. It's not going to get any better. It's time to replace the pavement. I think we got good numbers. We tried to bid it out this year when we had other roadways in the area, so that way we had an asphalt plant setting up for 16 miles of roadway rather than 9, to help us lower that cost because of the amount of quantity we have.
Okay.
Any other questions on the paving project?
I don't have any.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the low bid for.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Second item, consider approving the interim use permit application for Tricia Babinski as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Aaron is
so-
unable to be here for the weather, so I'll turn to Commissioner Arnold, who is
Yeah.
member of that.
It was as brief a planning commission meeting as we could possibly make it. There really is not any controversy surrounding this one, and the planning commission unanimously recommends approval.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion?
I make that a motion.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Third item is to consider approving the EDA revolving loan fund request for Red's Hometown Market in Spring Grove.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Allison, would you use the other one since Jack's mic is there?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, we have been busy in the EDA department since I was last here, which is a good thing. Just a little bit of background. On February 6th, 2019, Pat Longmire, who owns Red's Hometown Market, LLC in Spring Grove, requested from the EDA $65,000 in financing for updating, expanding his deli with new coolers, creating a Fat Pat's prep area, and adding a coffee shop to the current Red's Hometown Market store. This project is going to bring new business to town and expand Fat Pat's food trailer. The total project cost is around $435,000. The owner will be injecting $105,000 in equity, and Pat is also going to be requesting $65,000 from the city of Spring Grove. He has secured a line of credit from his bank. And after due consideration and discussion, the EDA Board of Directors unanimously passed a motion on February 6th, 2019, to recommend to you as the commissioners to approve this request. And so we are just looking for a motion to approve this.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
I think it's a really attractive business to enlarge. The business is a going concern, and Spring Grove has been ever since they moved from downtown. I don't remember when that was, but it's been over 10 years ago, I'm sure. And it's really been a very, very going business, so I'm glad to see the expansion.
Yeah, I am too. It's a good place.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 4, consider approving the EDA revolving loan request from Klug Insurance Agency in Caledonia.
So this was also on February 6, 2019. We have another business that is also expanding. Mike Klug is the owner of Klug Insurance Agency in Caledonia, and he attended the meeting to request $20,000 in financing for expanding his insurance business. He plans to buy the building at 123 East Main Street in Caledonia, and this building is located next door to his current building. It's larger, and it's actually been a vacant commercial space in Caledonia for several years. He plans to sell or rent out his current building. The funds will be used to purchase the new building and make renovations to the new building. The total project costs are around $145,000, with the owner injecting $20,000 in equity. The City of Caledonia has approved a $20,000 loan to the business, and the owner has also secured a line of credit from his bank. This motion passed unanimously as well on the 6th. And we are looking for a motion by you to approve his loan from the revolving loan fund.
Well, as a member of the EDA board, I'll make that motion here.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And number 5, consider approving the Highway Department purchase of the used loader. I think we did get information on a better purchase price.
Yeah, as at the last full board meeting, the board provided consensus to spend up to $70,000 if we found a used one. They were able to work with the agent and actually found a little bit better than the one we had discussed at the time. So they found a 2017 loader, relatively low miles, has all of the features and functions that they were looking for, and the price comes in at $68,900, and that's delivered. There is a warranty on the loader still through October 2019. So we've got plenty of pictures, and we've looked over it that way versus sending somebody out to look at it, and we'll have time to put it through its paces here when we get it while it's still under warranty. So
Is that the one that in Chicago? Or no?
The dealer's from Chicago, the loader is actually over in Pennsylvania right now.
Oh,
They said it'll be 2 weeks to get here.
I know Pat said that him and Shane were thinking about going looking at it, and that's not possible.
Because of the location, it's not possible.
Okay.
We ship it to Chicago, but I'll look at it and then ship it back up here. We have about 18 pictures, maybe 20 pictures of it. Has 160 hours on it.
Yeah, it's fairly low houred, yeah.
And we have the
That's
spec
pretty
sheet.
much like new.
Pretty much.
Spoken with the dealer, spoken to people that know the dealer, and it sounds like everything appears to be a very reputable company, in that the title will actually buy able to buy the used equipment back at times to sell through the dealership and everything, so.
Just a second. Jack, are you hearing any of that?
Most of it, yes.
Okay, go ahead. He's hearing enough of it, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yes, so overall, everything seems to be very reputable, and, when we get it, we'll have thorough inspection of that point. Warranty will still be good for, 6-7 months, so if there is any issues, we'll be able to get those taken care of.
How much is a new one, like brand new for that?
For the same loader is about 84,000.
84?
Yeah,
Okay.
You're saving 15,000
Yep.
by getting it.
And it still has some warranty left on it too.
How many dollars an hour is that we say?
Yeah,
I can't do that in my head.
yeah, yeah.
Is the one that we have worth anything to sell?
A few thousand. It's not, it's
As
in
much
pretty
as
rough
it
shape,
weighs.
so, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Jeff.
We will get a small amount of money for it, but not a lot. The one we have is in pretty rough shape.
All right,
Did you hear Egg's comment, Jack?
no,
Oh, he said as much as it weighs.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I make that motion to approve the purchase of that used loader.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We've got about 9 minutes till our public hearing time, so.
So we could move on to a commissioner report if Fred wants to take 9 minutes.
Hopefully I won't take that long.
Okay.
Now, the only meeting that I had that I need to report on is a meeting that was held, I better get it right. Yeah. We had a meeting of several people who are interested in trying to help individuals that are having problems with the current farm difficulties. And we had that at Ivy Grove a week ago. And Allison and Mike and a couple of other people were there, including one of the local pastors. And we have set up, or Mike has set up, a meeting in Mabel, and I hope I've got it on my calendar because I didn't bring the piece of paper with me. Yeah, here we are. Nope, I don't have it. I'm sorry. Oh, here it is. Yeah, 22nd of February in Mabel, there is a meeting for the general public that's interested to discuss what people can do and how people can get some help in various aspects of that farm crisis that we have right now.
I think he sent a notice out to all of us
Yeah,
on
I
that.
forwarded
yeah, we've all got the
And
notice, and
Jeff also did.
it's
so
it's been in the papers. It's anybody that knows about it, please come. Anybody that needs to.
I did notify my brother, who's a small dairy farmer, about it, and he said the most stressful part is getting to Mabel by 8:30.
Probably so.
But it's sounds like a good meeting,
Yeah.
from what I read on it.
We talked about the second chapter of that situation in trying to find different ways of making the land productive rather than the conventional commodity markets, which get into that cycle business that's hurting us so badly right now. And there'll be more about that later. But this is what's immediate, so we're dealing with this at this point, trying to.
That's good.
Our operative thing is we've got a problem. People have a problem. The state isn't doing anything. The feds aren't doing anything. Somebody needs to try to help a bit when we can. So
I
that's,
know the University Extension is really working on this
yeah,
problem.
yeah, and that's where this meeting comes from, is extension people.
Right.
And there will be at least one very good extension person there to try to guide people in this situation. That's all I've got.
Oh, very good.
my SEMCAC meeting was canceled last night again for the second time, so they're gonna try to reschedule in March. Did have a conference call with Bluff Country HRA, the quarterly, and there's not a lot going on, but they did loan out 1.4 million last year for housing, beginner housing, so that's been fairly successful, so, and they're looking to hopefully get that much out there again this year, so they already got 600 and some thousand allocated by the state now so far, so it looks promising, so other than that, that's about it.
Speaking of SEMCAC, La Crescent, mobile meals and senior dining, mobile meals has never been under SEMCAC till just recently, so
Okay.
they're starting that now, so, and I know Jack is as familiar as I am, because we both deliver for mobile meals, but it sounds like they already have increased their enrollment, because it's a little more reasonable. We can pick it up right in La Crescent, where before we had to go to La Crosse to pick it up, so I think it's going to be a real good thing for us. We already have senior dining, so this will be part of that. So, that's a good thing.
Yep.
Except I think Jack gets out of his mobile meals on Sunday now.
Yes, he does.
They only do it Monday through Fridays, and I happen to have Fridays. But anyway, I also had cancellations due to weather. We were supposed to have an extension meeting last Thursday night, and that got moved to February 21st now. I did go to that family collaborative meeting, which I reported on the last time, and one of the things we approved was transportation for foster children being shared, where we can actually reimburse for it. So the school districts can bill us, is what they can, to keep the kids in the same school district. And I also have been at quite a few phone conference meetings with the workforce development, as we are searching for a new regional director. And so we have interviews lined up for, I think, February 22nd and March 7th to interview for that. Those were my main meetings. So, and being it's 2 minutes to 10, we could probably recess
Jack
this
have
meeting.
anything?
Jack have anything, or?
Oh, Jack, did you have anything, any meetings?
Yes, I'll be real quick. I had Hiawatha Valley. He was not there, but they gave information on the new director. They're very excited about him coming on board. He had worked at Hiawatha Valley years ago, then took some other positions, and now is circling back. And so he's very familiar with the organization. They're going to be looking at a new location in Caledonia. I've had some discussion with Jeff about that, thinking that possibly we could work on potentially accommodating them, since we use them frequently, and but that's for another day. I had a meeting in Rochester yesterday and actually saw 5 cars in the ditch on the way to Rochester. But we had a nice contingency from the Sheriff's Department. It was the regional radio meeting. Had a gentleman from the state, actually 3 state people, but one gave the primary presentation. Very interesting, the whole history. Southeast Minnesota is a real leader. Actually, some national leadership in developing some of these radio programs. And I was glad to see the sheriff and the other people from the department, because they have a better handle on the equipment and all the needs and so forth. So I'm sure they gathered some good information and should be helpful moving forward. And I think that's probably it. Oh, one other thing I'd add, with the La Crescent dissatisfaction with some of the tax levies, a couple of people who I had been in contact with. I talked to Cindy, and they were visited, and one of the ladies contacted me afterward. Thank you. So I think it was very positive to get someone actually down there and going to their house and reviewing things with them. So glad to hear that.
That's good.
That's it.
All right. Being 10 o'clock, we need to go into public hearing for the ADA transition plan.
Right.
Do we need a motion for that?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
Woodner.
Okay, I'll move we go into public hearing for the ADA presentation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
All right. Brian, if you'd like to introduce.
Yeah, so, let's look if we have any, oh yeah, we have one from the public. I'm Ryan Pogazinski, I'm the county engineer, and with me is Justin Conway, he's the assistant engineer for the highway department. So Justin and I have been preparing this American with Disability Act's transition plan going on a couple of years. The law, American with Disability Act, became law back on July 26, 1990, that the civil rights law prohibiting discrimination against individuals on the basis of disability. Those screens look nice color up there for you. So we, as part of the law requires that we have a transition plan that's put into place that kind of details out how we're going to get from where we are today into compliance with ADA requirements. This transition plan should have probably been done a couple decades ago. Nationwide, these plans just weren't necessarily completed, finalized, formally approved, public hearings or public meetings. But most entities made improvements on their system. So Houston County back in 1995 did a bunch of improvements, replaced a bunch of handicap ramps, but they didn't have a formal plan of how they're going to get into compliance. So that's what this plan is. The state of Minnesota is about a year and a half in front of us. They have their plan adopted. If you did a search for ADA transition plan, you can see this done all throughout the U.S. The reason why it's become a big issue right now is that Federal Highway has said we are going to stop funding projects if you do not have an ADA transition plan put into place. That's a pretty big carrot out there to get everyone to get it completed. Yes. So our plan, currently this document that I have in front of you is about a 26-page document. It'll be revised over the next few weeks as we get public comments and update some numbers in it. And then we'll come back with a formal approval sometime involved in the next month. To go along with that, though, we have a bunch of attachments. We don't want to have all the stuff in the actual plan. It's attachments that we detailed out every single ramp in the county. We looked at what we have on our county network for accessibility, and this is just dealing with roadways. Roadway sidewalks, the public right-of-way infrastructure. These attachments are going to be changed as things get replaced. It's going to be just a never-ending updating of these documents. So, for the most part here today, I put together most of the plan, based on templates, looking at other counties, modifying it to fit our needs. Justin's been very instrumental on getting out there and putting these documents together about what's out there for the system. So most of the ramps most of the ADA features within our network do not meet current compliance. When they were put in the best of the contractor's ability. Best information was done at the time. They maybe met the requirements at that time, but as requirements have become more stringent,
rules have changed.
They determined that they don't necessarily meet the current requirements. So they're very small windows for or margins for error. You know, as you go to build these, they need to be pretty precise. So the plan that I have here, so we have the transition plan, kind of, you know, what is the need and the purpose, is what's here at the very beginning, and its relationship to other laws. You know, there's different federal laws that that require this to be put into place. So that's what the beginning of the document entails, is kind of what laws are requiring this. Self-evaluation, so we went out there, we surveyed every single, we're focused on the handicap ramps. That's the primary focus right now, but really this deals with the sidewalks throughout the system. For the most part, the sidewalks might be within the county right away, but the sidewalks are maintained by the city, which a lot of us will pass that on to landowners. So that's where the focus has been, the handicap ramps for us. So we went out there, we took a picture of every handicap ramp that we have on the system. So this intersection here in South 3rd and Kingston Street in Caledonia, we have 4 pictures, one of each quadrant of the intersection. And then these are the sheets that are inside this other book that shows the ADA compliance checklist, you know, where it's at, what type of ramp it is, because there's all different types of ramps, even though they might look very similar. Different types, all different features of them as far as width. Do they have a landing pad at the top? What are the slopes on the ramp for the landing at the top of the ramp, the cross slope, the gutter slope, the roadway slope? You know, can people get off the sidewalk, down the ramp, across the street, back up on the other side? Overall, you want to make sure that everything is within compliance. You get down at the end, are the ramps fully compliant? This one, without even looking at it, I know it's a no, and the reason why I know it's a no is because when we went through, pretty much all of them are a no. They maybe were compliant when they got built, you know. So you have frost heaving too. Just a little bit of settlement or heaving can make that ramp go from compliant to non-compliant. So we did this with every ramp on our system. It took a lot of time for surveying. It took a lot of time for Justin to put it into the system, to both of us to review the stuff. You know, I can go through and pull up any roadway. It's just Caledonia. You know, any roadway within a town in our system, I can pull up the same information. So if anyone has any questions on a specific location.
So do you have to have a time where you have to bring these back into compliance?
No. So we need to have a plan in place of what we're going to do. We need to show that we're making an effort. You know, what our plan really spells out, they put in here, is that you know, while we like to be fully into compliance, we have some constraints. Some areas are you just can't feasibly build it without rebuilding the entire system, just because maybe the road slopes are off, or the sidewalk's way higher than the roadway, just not, or you have buildings close by, it's not practical to build it. So there's 2 cost constraints to do it. And then there's other areas that that we're able to bring into compliance, and then you need to figure out when is the best time to do that. What our goal is to bring all of these into compliance when we redo roadways within areas that have sidewalks. So this next summer we're hoping to redo County 2 in Eitzen, County 3 in Caledonia, and County 6 blocks of County 29 in La Crescent. As part of those projects, we are going to be replacing, do you know the exact number, 80 some ramps during that construction period. So it's going to be a lot of handicap ramps going to be replaced. That we can fix the slopes, you know, have the truncated domes, get them into compliance. And actually, part of the federal law and their requirements, depending on the type of repair or project you have, they're saying you cannot do a mill and overlay on a roadway without addressing your ADA features. Does not mean that it needs to be brought fully into compliance, but you need to address them. You need to do the best you can to bring them into compliance. So our self-evaluation, when we went around 6.9 miles of sidewalks, 194 curb ramps, 3.7 miles of on-road bicycle lanes, 2 traffic control signals, 1 rectangular rapid flashing beacon, soon to be 4, depending on how these projects shake out here in the next year, or in 2019. There is 1 bus stop that we really don't do a whole lot with, and then there's 3 miles of shared bicycle / parking lanes. So we kind of looked at stuff. We looked at our past practices. Pulled up our history of projects along these roadways, of what we did for projects, what roadway, the year the project was, the location, and then what ADA improvements were made with those projects. So we detailed that out. All of our projects on these roadways within the urbanized area since the law was enacted back in 1990. So our policy, as I mentioned previously, what our goals are. Goals is to continue to provide accessible pedestrian design features as part of the county's capital improvement projects. We want to make sure that if anyone has any issues getting around, that we make those improvements where they don't need to come to us and to request improvements, that we're doing that on our own, being proactive. At the same time, if someone comes to us, we want to make sure we can make improvements to accommodate them as well the best we can. Our improvement schedule, priority areas is going to be the areas that we have roadway projects scheduled. Just cost effectiveness, if we have a project in that area, we're going to get a better price. If we're doing 80-some handicap ramps at one time, we're going to get a better price if we try to hire a contractor with the same requirements, same certifications to do 3, 4, 5 ramps for us.
Brian,
Yes.
typically when you do these projects, is the main contractor on the roadway equipped to do these ramps, or does he have to hire a subcontractor? How does that work?
Yeah, they will hire a subcontractor is what it almost always entails.
Yeah.
So yeah, the subcontractor is going to be doing the ramps. Is my anticipation anyway? It could be the main contractor. But in front of the ramps, you're going to be tearing out some asphalt. You can't just pop the concrete out without damaging the asphalt.
Yeah.
So if you do it all at the same time, you cut the asphalt out, you put the ramps, or you take the concrete stuff out, you build the concrete ramps, you patch in the asphalt, and you come in, you do your overlay, and you have your complete project at the end. If you do the ramps as standalone, you still take out that same asphalt, you still need to get that asphalt here along with the concrete, so you start getting more trucking costs, get into other inefficiencies, and you get all that same equipment out there to do these little patches. So do it together as one project, just the most cost effective. External agency coordination, we do talk and communicate pretty closely with the cities. Our upcoming project this next summer that we're bidding out currently, we've been talking to Eitzen, Caledonia, and La Crescent for multiple years now. We've met with them. They've seen the plans. We're going to be, I don't know if the final plans have been sent on to them yet. They're going to be sent real soon. We just advertised them here this last week. So, but they have seen the preliminary plans. We got all their feedback. I can talk about what those projects entail a little bit more if you want. For the most part, it's handicap ramp replacements, same locations. We're going to be adding a couple additional ramps to make it better access around town. Within the city of Caledonia, we're going to be doing some curb extensions over by the elementary school, doing the RRFB rapid rectangular flashing beacons, the push button signal activated crosswalks to get people to cross over in that area more safely. Part of a plan that's put in place with the school a couple of years ago recommended those. And this is the perfect time to increase and improve some of those features. So we're going to be doing that. Schedule, ideally, 5 years from now we'll have 50% of our conditions or of our systems going to be compliant. Replacing 80-some ramps in 2019, that's going to put us a little bit under 50%, and then over the next few years, we have other projects to get us into the 50% ballpark. And then, also during the same time, I'd want to have 75% of the features that we're constructed after January 26, 1991 to be compliant or substantially compliant. So, you know, we know that there's some stuff that met compliance when they were built and not compliant now. You need to account for that somehow. You don't need to replace everything the requirements change.
So is it the slope that's changed, or?
So with how things were built in the past, essentially you build the gutter line around the base of the ramp, and then you pour the ramp, you pour the landing pad at the top of the ramp at the same time along with some sidewalk, and you just go. When that happens, when they're finishing that concrete, they're troweling over the edge. So all of a sudden you don't have a 4x4 landing pad at the top. That landing pad might only be 3 foot 6 inches. That meets the slope requirements. The truncated domes that we put in with the ramps to have a visual indicator that something's changing there at the bottom of the ramps, and you also have that feel. You know, those domes, I don't even think they were available in the 90s. I didn't really start seeing them pop up a lot until 2000, 2001, 2002. So, you know, back then it was, you know, broom finish on the ramps. Well, broom finish is the same color as what the rest of the sidewalk is. So it needs to be a different color and texture. So there's just some changes that way.
In '91, they had some requirements on or the ADA wasn't real strict at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they made the changes leading up now to 2012. Since 2012, there hasn't been much change. So since that time, it's more on the construction from 2012 to now. Some of the changes, but as far as specifics and requirements that need to be met, there hasn't been any changes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
I couldn't hear a lot of it, but I heard Brian say that a lot of this work will be done in conjunction with scheduled road work.
Yes.
Is there other funding available for doing it independently of another project?
At this time, I have not seen other funding. We can use our state aid funds, whether it's an independent project or if it's, you know, standalone project, or if it's in conjunction with other stuff. We can use our state aid funds if it's on our state aid roadways. So pretty much all of our features can be done using our state aid money.
Okay.
But I am not aware of any grant money or any special money specifically toward ADA improvements.
All right, thanks.
Brian,
Yes.
are any of our roadways wide enough that we have to worry about bump outs? I can remember some controversy in Spring Grove when the state went through there and because the roadway was X number of feet wide, you had to have bump outs, etc. Are we involved with that kind of a situation?
Yes, so there's no requirements on the curb extensions that forces you to do it. We can have a roadway that's a 6-lane highway going through whatever city we want. There's no requirements to force you to put in curb extensions.
Okay.
However, for the pedestrian aspect, whenever you get into more than 2 lanes of traffic to cross, it makes it a lot more difficult to cross. Curb extensions, so, you know, for example, down by the high school, or down by Caledonia Elementary School. Right now, the roadway is 40 feet wide to cross that roadway. So we're going to be doing a curb extension on the south side of the roadway right in front of the elementary school. Kind of defines that that's a school zone area. There's something different in that area. The curb extensions are going to be out to 10 feet out beyond where it's currently at. So that'll lower that crosswalk width from 40 foot in width down to 30. The pedestrians out there closer to traffic, they can see they're still up on the curb. They're going to cross the roadway 25% quicker. And if you look at the reduction of time it's going to take to get into the other traffic lane and across, it's an even greater reduction. So that's where their curb extensions really cut down on the time to get someone across. So curb extensions right now, what we're planning on doing is, and I do plan on talking to the city of Caledonia at a council meeting. I've been dealing with their staff, and I've talked to them about actually going to their next city council meeting here on February 25th or 26th. We'll have 2 extensions on County 3, and then over in La Crescent on South 7th Street, which is County 6, I'm going to do a curb extension over by the pool area. And that'll be a push button flashing beacon as well. A lot of kids cross those areas. So a few areas that we're looking at doing this, we're trying to make sure that they're designed so they don't impact traffic. Through Caledonia by the elementary school, 30-foot curb face to curb face. And when you drive through the downtown area of Caledonia, when you have cars parked on both sides of the roadway, it's about 30 feet between mirrors, maybe even slightly less than that. So we're not restricting them any more than what they're already being restricted coming through the actual downtown area. So we don't want to go out there and do curb extensions and have farm equipment, semis impacting traffic in those areas. At the same time, if we can make it safer for pedestrians, and we think that these areas that are definitely could use some improvements, so better to be proactive rather than
Mainly
reactive.
by the schools and the swimming pool and those
Yes.
areas that were.
Yep, the ones that have a lot higher
Oh,
pedestrian traffic,
pedestrian
or
traffic.
especially the youth, the kids.
And those areas are where you're also going to put up the flashing lights,
Yeah.
push the button.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then.
Yep, those
okay.
exact same locations.
Okay.
Good.
Part of the plan, you need to have an ADA coordinator for the ADA within the right-of-way. The ADA coordinator, the Title II coordinator, would be myself. Any type of public infrastructure or buildings, that would be lost signal out there. That'll be the HR director. Tess would be the ADA coordinator for county buildings and facilities. So the parking lot out here actually to the courthouse, that'll be HR. Public outreach. Part of the requirements to have the transition plan is to have some public outreach. So generally what is being done across the nation is that you meet either at a city council, county board meeting. State will have specific meetings or has had specific meetings scheduled around the state to present the plan to the public. So anyone that wants to come and listen to the plan can, and then provide feedback either at that meeting or before, during, or afterwards. So in this case, we're going to take public comments pretty much forever. Whenever anyone wants to issue comments, they can. For us to incorporate it into the plan, the deadline is next week. So we gave them 1 week beyond this meeting to provide documentation, so that way they can hear what gets said today and they can provide feedback and comments still after this meeting is done. I mentioned that we've had meetings with the cities of Eichen, Caledonia, and La Crescent. In the future, when we do projects in Spring Grove, Houston, we don't have any sidewalks over in Polka area at this time, but if there were to be, we'd be meeting with those cities as well. Our draft transition plan is posted on the Houston County's website. If you go to Houston County's website to the Highway Department, there is a link to our entire plan is on that. Advertised in the paper, we have this meeting today. Any comments will be incorporated into the plan. Grievance procedure, if someone comes to me and says they want us to make some improvements, and I look at it and say, we just don't have the money, we disagree with these improvements, we'd like to do something else, they can grieve that decision. So we have a committee set up, and that's in the appendices that I'll get to in just a little bit. They can grieve it to go above my head. They can go on to other people here at the county, which includes county commissioners. And then, we'll just continue to monitor this document and update as conditions change. So the effective date will be once the county board approves it. So I anticipate that to be sometime here in March. Appendices, we have the self-evaluation, which is all these documents, schedule, budget, public outreach, grievance procedure, contact information. So real quickly here, self-evaluation, we went through, we looked at, what are the issues. So 4% of our curb ramps are fully within compliance. So the other 96% have at least one area that is off. So It could be very minor. It could be a slope of, it could be that size of that ramp at the top might be at 3.9 feet instead of 4 feet. It could be a slope that's at 2.1% instead of 2%. So it doesn't mean that's substantially off, but it still means it's not fully compliant. 18% of the intersections do not have any curb ramps, of which people don't need to cross necessarily at every intersection, but it's nice to provide them access to get around where the people want to go. 50% of the traffic signals have push buttons that are accessible. Those are the signals over in La Crescent. The ones here in Caledonia I do not believe have push buttons on them. The buses, we really don't do the buses. That's the transit over with La Crosse, and I think public health might have some involvement with them, but I know we haven't. Cost, we have some unit price cost, what we think it takes to retrofit and do some projects adjacent to projects, standalone projects. These numbers are from what we've seen in other locations, other counties, state numbers. None of these improvements are cheap. The costs add up in a hurry. You will find out when we bring in the projects for our bids that will be opened up in February. I will actually, or in March, I'll actually split out what some of our ADA costs are, so you can see what that cost is going to be.
You can separate that out.
Yeah, we'll pull out those line items. So I already have it pulled out. I just don't want to reveal what that number is until we get the bids, because numbers could be substantially
And you said most of
different.
these are subcontracted,
Most of them are going to be subcontracted, yes. So
so you can pull them out that way too.
No,
No?
we'll pull them out right away when it gets bid.
Okay.
Yes, we could pull them out later, but it's just, we know what the numbers are going to be right up front, so we might as well just pull them out
Right.
at the beginning. So, priority areas. So 151 of our curb ramps are greater than 15 years old. There are some newer ones that have been put in either by the county or by different municipalities. Looking at the entire jurisdiction to upgrade everything, be about, I'll need to verify that this number is correct, 775,000 to make the improvements. That number might be on the low end. Looking at our future projects, we have 2019, we have some projects that I mentioned, 2020, County 16 over in Spring Grove. We want to repave that section, and then we can replace the ramps out there at the same time. Public outreach, said the posting of the plan it's currently posted. It'll be posted through February 19th. We'll receive comments on that. We'll add any comments into the plan. So at this point, there have been no comments received by the public yet at this to date, and I could modify that some, that I have received comments back from the different municipalities we have 2019 projects in. But besides for those three entities and their staff, we haven't heard back from anyone else yet. So we'll update this as we receive comments. Grievance procedure, what's going to happen as far as if you want to grieve a decision that's been made. Public right away, it's myself as far as who'd contact. All other ADA items dealing with facilities and stuff would be HR director. And then you can there is an ADA committee, and that's been approved by the county board. So I thought I might have that committee members in here, but it might not be in here. So the ADA committee, I believe it consists of a couple commissioners and maybe an administrator or something like that on it. So contact information for both Tessa and myself. The design standards that we're following. Limitations, glossary of terms. So I think that's about it. So I went through it fairly fast but kind of slow at the same time. So have any questions? Want me to go through anything more detail? Want me to pull up any locations?
Does anybody from the public wish to? Yes, sir?
Your discussions with the city of Caledonia, Is there a recommendation on the stoplight at intersection of Kingston and Main?
I've had discussions with City Public Works Director about the stoplights. Standards that stoplight on the ADA side, as far as upgrading the stoplights to push button activated, signals, the crosswalk lights. No, I have not had that discussion. As far as if the stoplights should remain or if it could be eliminated, changed to an always stop. I have had discussion with Casey on that. Essentially, for a town this size with the traffic volume on the roadways, you can justify a stoplight. You have, there's different thresholds, and it does meet the warrants for a stoplight. It also meets the warrants for an always stop, so it could go either way. As far as traffic flow, there's not a major impact to County 3 with how it's functioning right now versus if we went to an always stop. So I've kind of left in the city's hand where if the city council wanted to go to an always stop, I would support that. The state supports it. I've spoken with the state about that as well. If they want to leave it as a stoplight, I'm okay with that as well. And the state will support that as well, just because it does meet the warrants both ways.
But if they left it as a stoplight, they would have to upgrade for the push button from an ADA point of view?
Yep, so they should have a plan in place of upgrading it to the push button at some point. You could get into the audible signals as well. The city should have a plan. That plan doesn't mean that they need to do it now. It could be not touch it until the signals fail, then at that point update it. It could be to find a standalone project and have get the money and then do it at that time. So, but yes, they should definitely have a plan. Along with all of their sidewalks. It's not just sidewalks and ramps within the city. So every city should have this. Now, it doesn't affect the cities to as great of extent as the county, because the county gets federal funding a lot more often. Cities don't get the federal funding as often. City of La Crescent probably does, but the other cities don't. However, if there was a lawsuit that got put out there, city got sued because they had some ramps or some sidewalks that don't meet standards. Having a transition plan is something they can fall back on and saying, we have a plan in place. We haven't got to it yet because our money's tight. We don't have time. We don't have inspectors. We don't have staff to do it. But if you have a plan in place, then you can say, this is our plan. We're working toward it. If you don't have a plan in place, it's your word versus the individual that's struggling to get around in front of a judge.
Yeah, you have to show you're making an effort.
Yeah.
So each city has to have a plan also.
I would encourage the city to have plans. Like I said, they might not be tied on the funding end because they don't get the federal highway funds on a normal city street. City of La Crescent is different because they are a city over 5,000 populations. So because of that, they have access to some other funding sources, right. And they do get some federal funding at times. The other smaller towns, for the most part, does not, as far as I'm aware of.
So does the state inspect these too, or they go by what you?
The state has pretty much said that there are so many ADA features within public right-of-ways throughout the state that they're pretty much staying hands-off on the county system. They've replaced a lot of their own infrastructure to upgrade their stuff. Mm-hmm. At this point, though, they're really leaving it in the hands of the local entities, local agencies to be self-reliant, self-compliant.
Okay.
So our stuff that was submitted to the state, we asked them. There's a few different ramps that were replaced very recently. One good example is over in La Crescent, over by Crucifixion Church and School. They replaced 2 ramps over there. Those ramps slightly out of compliant, but they made a good effort, good attempt to make it compliant. We're not going to tear out a ramp that was replaced last year because it's off by 0.1%. And the state has said, yeah, we're not going to force you to. You make your own decision of what happens. Now, if we went out there and we left every ramp, then the state would say. No.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Justin, on what you saw when you went out?
A lot of the failures are basically from your frost heave, so.
Yeah, I could see where that would throw everything
Quarter
off.
inch of discontinuity there is-
Yeah.
it's an instant failure, so I think that's the biggest issue we see
Yep.
out there now.
Yep.
Yeah, so any sidewalk up and down the system at any joint, when they have that quarter-inch elevation change, that pulls that little section of sidewalk out of compliance, so. When we do our projects, we are gonna be doing some sidewalk replacements while we're trying to keep the sidewalks down as minimal as we can, because we don't wanna have the county pay for upgrading sidewalks, the city sidewalks all over the place. At the same time, it is within that right of way, so we do have quite a few sidewalk sections being replaced. But my goal is to keep that under 5%. I don't know, we might be closer to 10% in some areas. But for the most part, it's, we want to make sure the cities deal with their sidewalks.
Like on the sub-county project, we're trying to limit it to like a 2 or 3 panel replacement, basically where we had some utilities that were installed, now it's settled out.
Mm-hmm.
We don't wanna get into replacing somebody's full frontage. It kinda gets to, we're in the middle between the city and the landowner.
Yeah.
And the people that have replaced them, we don't wanna get into that.
Get in the middle of that. Yeah.
We're trying to limit our scope.
Teresa?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm losing whatever.
Oh, Justin was talking about the
Oh, okay.
sidewalks situation where some of the city sidewalks are too high, basically, to get the 2% grade
Yeah, so,
required.
yeah, so for the most part, sidewalk replacement, we are trying to replace just 2 or 3 panels at a time, not going and replacing, 200 feet of sidewalk in a row. These requirements are onto the landowners. We have a lot of agreements in place with different cities that say we will help pay to install the sidewalk, whether it's 50% county money, 50% city, maybe it's 100% county to install them, but the agreements, all of them say that we have agreements in place, 100% for maintenance by the city. Now, there are some roadways where we can't find the agreement, so some of those ones are kind of into those gray areas of who's responsible for it. But we're kind of following the lead of the agreements that we do have. Every other county, they're all saying it's essentially a city issue with the sidewalks. But we do know that it's right in our public right of way. We do want to make sure they're compliant. So we're trying to get those, find that balance. Cities make landowners install sidewalks. One landowner installs a sidewalk, replaces that sidewalk. The next landowner doesn't do anything. It's all busted up. Grass growing through the cracks. Tripping hazards. We don't want to go out there and spend a bunch of county money to replace that landowner or that sidewalk in front of that landowner, and then that landowner gets it done for nothing and adjacent landowners paid for it. We want to be uniform with how we do things. So, little settlement issues, we'll take care of those, but nothing major.
I agree with that approach, 100%.
Yes. Anybody else have a comment for the public hearing?
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time and said stop by. Or don't be afraid to ask if you have any questions. So.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
And-
Brian.
And again, Brian, that's open for public input until the 19th of February.
Yep.
If anybody else has any comments, to get them to you.
Yep. So until the 19th of February, we will incorporate it into the plan. If it's after the 19th of February, we'll still address those concerns. It will not be incorporated into this plan, but the same process will take place how we address it. So.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion to.
We
close
need a
the-
motion to come out of public hearing.
So, okay, I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
10:39. Let's see, back to my real agenda.
I think
Now, do we need to make a motion relative to that presentation at this point, or is that after the public comment thing?
It's after the.
right.
No,
Yeah.
this is just the draft, actually.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to wait till
Okay.
public
No,
comment.
no action for the board at this point
Yeah.
because they're still working on the plan.
I
Correct.
think he said in March it would come before the board, the final
Yep.
ADA.
After any revisions that are
Transition.
necessary, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, let's see. Do we have any other commissioner reports or comments at this time? I don't believe so. I think we each went through ours.
I'll add one quick discussion item.
Okay.
Just to make the board aware, Donna and I met with a gentleman representing the 2020 census efforts. They are approaching all the counties and cities looking for help. Our role in helping will be purely in a make public awareness role. Working to make folks aware of the census, how the census is going to run, how to respond to the census. So they're looking for help getting that public message out, and so we will be working with them. Primarily, we'll use some citizen committees and with the cities to spread that word. But just want to bring it up and make folks aware, because that census will, of course, drive so many things from the state and federal funding for the county. So it's very important that we get accurate counting when the time comes.
Scott and I actually went for that training also when they first started it. Same thing was the publicity, and even going to the school systems, everybody is part of the public
Yep.
being aware. It does make on all of our funding
Mhm.
as far as accurate count. I agree with you there. I actually have a whole folder on it. You probably do too now.
It's growing quickly.
Yes. Any other closing public comments at this point?
I just want to bring up that, on the fact that Doreen Denstead's retiring after 39 years. I think she should be recognized for her long years of service.
Yes. Oh,
Absolutely.
anyone else have a?
Teresa?
Yes.
I would just comment that there's an election for our Caledonia commissioner today,
Yes.
and it may be the only election where only 10 people get to the polls.
So get out and vote.
Yep.
Get out and vote.
They finally plowed my road, so if I could vote in there, I could get there now, I think.
I think the Board of Canvas will be on Friday morning, so.
I've got, how many need to be there?
Two commissioners, we've got, Eric said you'd be here, and then Teresa, so I think
Okay,
we're
good,
set.
because I can't. But,
Yeah, we're set.
all right,
Are you going to Hawaii?
yeah, I wish.
On that note, based on the scheduling of the canvassing board and timelines and such, it looks like the 22nd of February is is a Friday, the day we will do the swearing in of whoever's elected. And so that following meeting, the 26th of February, will be the first official meeting that we'll have a full board. So, looking forward to that.
February 22nd will be the swearing in.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else to come before the board? For a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Okay.